Y'all having a good time? What? Boys! Peanut! What?
Tiffanie Lucas had two faces. The one where she fooled around with her two sons, and this one.
Tiffanie Lucas is her name. That's her right there. Look at her. Charged with 2 counts of murder, appeared in a Kentucky courtroom Tuesday.
Yeah. How do you even reconcile the two personalities? Do the videos she filmed of herself having fun with her boys even make sense when you know what she would do soon after? In November 2023, her case made headlines all over the world. Her actions were unspeakable, and her explanation was even more so.
They were such sweet babies. Nobody deserves that, you know, to die like that. So
why on earth would Tiffanie take the lives of 9-year-old Jaden and 6-year-old Maurice? What did she say when she got caught? And where is she now? This is the full story of Tiffanie Lucas and her poor sons. On the morning of November 8th, 2023, law enforcement was called to a cul-de-sac in Shepherdsville, Kentucky. Several cars arrived on behalf of the sheriff's office, but it was too late to do anything. 2 brothers, 9-year-old Jaden and 6-year-old Maurice, were lying almost on top of each other with a red puddle underneath. Even though their own mother was in the house with them, it was a neighborhood who had called 911. The sheriff knew what to do right away. Handcuff 32-year-old Tiffanie Lucas. Jaden and Maurice were rushed to the Norton's Children's Hospital in Louisville. However, that was a half-hour's drive away, and they had bullet marks on their heads. Before noon, they entered surgery, but by 2:50 p.m., they were both pronounced dead. Now, law enforcement had to try and make sense of what had just happened.
Tiffanie Lucas is her name. That's her right there. Look at her. Charged with 2 counts of murder, appeared in a Kentucky courtroom Tuesday. She's accused of murdering her 6 and 9-year-old sons, those beautiful boys. Police say she shot them both in the head. How disgusting is that?
The day after the incident, Tiffanie Lucas was arraigned by video and without a lawyer present. Judge Jennifer Porter entered a not guilty plea on her behalf and jailed the woman in the Bullitt County Detention Center on a $2 million bond. It's honestly surprising she received a bond at all. Tiffanie was interrogated that day. Lo and behold, she played the victim. She said, "I'm in such a bad spot. I'm so stupid. I would never do anything like this unless someone manipulated me." Wait, what? You're in a bad spot. What about Jaden and Maurice? Also, who makes general statements like, "I would never do anything like this unless someone manipulated me"? Why didn't she say who manipulated her and how? Tiffanie was the only one at home that day with her 2 sons and a firearm. It would take a master of manipulation to make her do that, wouldn't it? And if her lies weren't clear enough, during the same interrogation, Tiffanie said it was an accident. Well, which was it? An accident or manipulation?
She indicated that it was an accident. Quote, "It was an accident," end quote. She also made some comments such as, quote, "I'm in such a bad spot," end quote. Quote, "I'm so stupid," end quote.
The same question kept popping up when experts, neighbors, or anyone else discussed this case. How on earth did this woman have full custody of her sons? There must have been some red flags, right? Well, the first impression was no. Tiffanie seemed to love her 2 children.
Y'all having a good time? What? Boys! Peanut! What?
She posted countless photos of the 3 of them. They were always together, as far as the internet showed, at sporting events, kids' parties, just out and about, wherever the boys wanted to go. And there was a tragic layer to the story too. Back in 2019, Jaden's biological father, who was raising the boys, lost his life. The 2 boys found a lot of comfort in each other and in their older brother, Darrell Howard, who was Jaden's brother through their dad, was old enough to be the boy's father figure. So when his father passed away, he took it upon himself to spend as much time as possible with his brothers. He would become an important father figure to them and a role model. Sadly, he wasn't their protector, and he said he would regret that forever.
I should have did more. I should have, if it came to me coming to snatch the boys out the house, I should have did that. And I would hold that on my back for the rest of my life, for both of them boys. We would have took them open arms. We loved them so much.
Darrell also said he believed his little brothers were now together with their dad.
No, Jaden and Peanut, I know they together. And I know our father probably waiting on them, waiting on both of them.
When Darrell addressed Tiffanie directly through a news outlet camera, he said,
"You scarred everybody with this one. You scarred everybody with this one."
And he was absolutely right. Not just people in the boys' immediate family were traumatized by this heartbreaking incident. The family's neighbor, Steve Steyer, said,
"It's sad. I mean, what's this world coming to? For a mother to share 2 children like that."
Another neighbor, Amanda Mangus, pointed out perhaps the most shocking part of this case. "It's devastating. I mean, as a mother, I can't imagine thinking that's the only way." Exactly. It's in fact the opposite of what a mother normally thinks. Most mothers would give their whole world to their children and do anything to keep harm from them. Even experts discussing the case updates had the same thoughts on their minds.
It's absolutely heartbreaking. As a mother of 4, every time I hear about a parent killing their children, I could just never imagine how do they reach that point. And even looking at her social media, you would think that this was a happy life, they enjoyed time.
Social media can be deceiving. It rarely shows a person's happiness or success accurately, let alone highlight mental health issues or severe red flags. But to those who knew her closely, Tiffanie was not the perfect mom, not by a long shot.
A friend of the Kentucky woman arrested for shooting her 2 young sons, ensuring they wouldn't survive, says Tiffanie Lucas had an unpredictable nature and could flip a switch when mad.
According to her friend, Tiffanie had always been mentally unstable. She could be kind and friendly one minute, but when something made her mad, she flew off the handle and could get violent. Tiffanie Lucas also had a previous narcotics charge, spending time in jail for it. When these were revealed to the public, the same question returned.
Your thoughts on how in the world she had custody of those boys when we understand she had quite a checkered past?
I believe that there was absolutely a breakdown in our system when you think about child protective services and law enforcement and the investigative process and what happened in this particular case that allowed her to have any physical custody.
Too many cases start with an unstable parent and child protective services that just aren't involved enough or even work in the favor of the parent.
Autumn's death is the predictable result of failing to intervene when there are 30+ reports from so many different people.
Autumn and Noah Hallow went through literal hell at the hands of their father and stepmom. For years, CPS and law enforcement were called to their address, but each and every case was closed, concluding there was insufficient evidence to arrest the parents or save the siblings. Only when Autumn lost her life in horrendous circumstances did a proper investigation start.
An 8-year-old lost her life, and she didn't need to.
The last 20 years or so, child welfare has really tried to emphasize being fair to parents, doing justice to parents, but we've kind of lost track of doing justice to children as well.
What's the point of child protection services if they don't protect the children? The prosecution is seeking the worst type of punishment for Tiffanie Lucas.
The excuse she made that it was an accidental death. You don't shoot a baby, a child, twice in the head and call it an accident, then the other one gets shot too. So she lies. She obviously has drug addictions. As far as why.
Speaking of why, before the judge can decide what punishment Tiffanie deserves, she must understand the motive behind her heinous actions. And while Tiffanie is full of lies and conflicting stories, detectives will unearth her history, her relationship with her sons, and any other clues that might point to her motive.
I can tell you now, in my 40+ years of being in this line of work, there are 3 things that I've seen, and it can be these things individually or it can be these things in combination. You can have a individual who is suffering from some type of mental illness. You can have an individual who has some type of substance abuse problem, or that individual can simply be just that evil. or it can be a combination of those things.
If mental health issues are involved, then punishments tend to get lighter. This is why many psychopathic killers try and go for an insanity plea. If they can prove they weren't in control of their actions at the time of the crimes, then they might get a few decades or even just a few years in prison. That's compared to life in prison or even the ultimate sentence. In Tiffany's case, the latter is being considered.
The question we're asking this morning, do these crimes warrant the death penalty? We know that capital punishment is legal in the state of Kentucky, but won't apply if a person is deemed to be mentally ill by the court.
Law enforcement instructor Sunny Slaughter has strong feelings about this awful case, but she is mindful we can't jump to conclusions before the whole trial unfolds.
Emotionally, I want to say yes, but as a law enforcement expert, I need to keep the audience informed that facts and evidence matter, including a mental health evaluation and all of the circumstantial and confirmed evidence around this case. So we should not, we might have our opinions, but we need to be careful how we think about this particular case until we have all of the evidence available to us.
Judging from what was revealed so far, it doesn't sound like Tiffanie Lucas was of sound mind. That fateful morning, her neighbors heard 4 loud bangs. When they rushed to Tiffany's driveway, they found her walking outside and then collapsing. She told them, "My kids are dying." Imagine the shock of the man who rushed into the home, only to find that Jaden and Maurice had just been unalived by their mother. It happened seconds before. A break-in was impossible and Tiffany was all alone with her boys there. And yet, she told them her kids were dying. Maurice's stepmother, Michelle Rice, also spoke to a news outlet and revealed something tragic. Several family members had reached out to Child Protective Services. Some relatives did so repeatedly, and yet nothing was done.
So many other people really loved them and could have been there to help them. But she wouldn't allow that. She was too selfish. And now they're gone.
Reportedly, Tiffany rejected everyone around her and insisted her sons were hers. No one else could have them. She almost spoke about them as if they were her material possessions. And yet she was poison to them. And everyone close to her knew this. One of these people is Talia Crutcher, a neighbor and mom of children the same age as Jaden and Maurice. The two became friendly after their children started hanging out together.
She had kids and I had kids, and we instantly, our kids instantly fell in love with each other. They just played so good together.
The two moms would often meet so that their children could have a play date.
They were funny. They are nice.
Imagine how hard the news of Jaden and Maurice's death hit Talia's children.
I cried. I was sad.
I don't think I can process it. I just can't. It's shocking, right? It's unbelievable.
It's always heartbreaking to see the huge ripple effect an evil, thoughtless person can have on an entire community. It's not just a brother or a grandparent who is left in shambles. It can be the victim's friends, schoolmates, neighbors, and anyone who knew and loved them. As Talia says, it's all made even more heartbreaking when you think of how much Jaden and Maurice loved their mother, even with all the red flags there.
I feel so bad for the boys because they still loved her and they still adored her and looked up to her. And just to think that.
A week after Jaden and Maurice lost their lives, the entire community in Shepherdsville came together to honor them and shed tears together.
From the dozens of strangers wiping away tears, to family members left absolutely shattered.
Because a lot of times you hear it on the TV, but there's no place, there's no outlet to kind of grieve together as a community.
The brothers' faces are now decorating the school bus as a reminder of the bright, happy boys they were.
They are your bus babies, and you want to protect them as soon as you get them, They're such sweet babies. Nobody deserves that, to die like that.
Darrell's last memory with his little brothers is a happy one.
We just played a card game. That was as simple as that, and then we had the best time ever.
But can you ever move on from such a terrible, sudden loss? Perhaps a little bit of closure will happen once Tiffany is convicted and sent away to prison for the rest of her life. But the wheels of justice move notoriously slow, and it might yet be a long time until the entirety of her trial unfolds and we have a clearer picture. Hey, thanks a bunch for watching. What are your thoughts on this case? Do you know similar other stories? Let me know in a comment, and before you go, make sure you like and subscribe. See you next time.